Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We are cracking open the source material today for, well, what I think is one of the most innovative and, frankly, demanding new collectible games out there, T-Legion TCG.
It really is. It's a game that forces you to think like a golf pro and command a dragon army, simultaneously. The core idea, the premise, is that those fundamentals of golf grip, stance, tempo, alignment, they're not just fluff, they're the actual power source.
Right, for this mythic duel of knights, dragons, relics, all playing out on these, living golf courses.
Exactly. It blends that golf flow with creature combat in a really unique way.
I love that hybrid concept. It just makes the strategy feel so different from, your standard creature battler. Okay, let's get into it. Our mission today, for you listening, is a full immersion. We're doing a deep dive into one specific faction, the Tidewing Dragons.
The Tidewings, yeah. These are the, let's call them the icy petter dragons. They're masters of finesse. They win through tempo, through controlling hazards, and really surgical precision finishes.
Okay, precision finishers. But before we get into their specific tricks, we need to nail down the basics for anyone maybe newer to T-Legion. The foundational math, right? The core stats.
Absolutely essential. If you're just learning, these 4 stats govern everything. Every unit, every play, they're not just numbers, they define the whole role of a dragon.
First up, G-Key, game points. This is basically your knight's health, your stamina, or maybe the match score.
Yeah, both, really. It's your knight's lifeblood. When your knight's GP hits 0, that's it. Game over. You're cut. It's the ultimate win or loss condition.
Okay, GP is life, then you've got the combat stuff, HD.
HD is hit damage. Simple enough how hard your dragon actually strikes. Raw power.
And the flip side, DG Dragon Guard. That's toughness, defense.
Exactly. Unit toughness, how much punishment they can take. Crucial for, surviving those rounds of back and forth, the attrition battles.
Right. And the last one, maybe the most unique to T-Legion strategy, YDS yards.
YDS. This is the big one for positioning. It's the dragon's distance identity. And this number is, well, it's non-negotiable. It strictly dictates which out of the 8 slots on the battlefield, the land zone, that dragon can legally occupy.
Non-negotiable. So if a dragon somehow loses its legal YDS for its spot?
It's effectively benched. It can't play, can't strike. YDS is fundamental to the game's flow.
Got it. GP, HD, DG, YDS, the 4 pillars. Okay, let's dive into the Tidewing identity itself.
Right. So the world of T-Legion, it's structured around 5 elemental dragon factions. And the cool thing is, each one is directly linked to a specific golf club type, an element, and one phase of the golf swing.
Which creates these really clear strategic archetypes, right? We know the aggressors, the flame wing.
Yep, fire dragons, they're tied to drivers, the big sticks, and the stance phase.
Yeah.
Their whole game is just raw power, maximum output right off the tee, aggression.
Then the opposite, the defenders, stonebacks.
Earth dragons, linked to irons in the grip phase. They're tough, all about grinding attrition, holding the line, trying to wear you down before you even get close to the green. Defense first.
And you got the tricky ones, the storm scales, lightning dragons.
Yeah, lightning, they use hybrids, those versatile clubs, and they're linked to the takeaway part of the swing, that initial move back. So they're all about speed, sudden tempo shifts, quick combos, disruptors.
Okay, and the endgame specialists, ether mains.
The ether mains, cosmic dragons. They use legendary clubs, think unique, powerful effects, and they're tied to the follow-through, the completion of the swing. So their focus is synergy, complex interactions, setting up these very specific, often powerful late-game win conditions.
Which finally brings us back to the stars of today's deep dive.
Yeah.
The Tidewings.
The Tidewings, water and ice dragons, and their club type, the putter.
Yeah.
Visually, their gear often has these shimmering crystalline tips. Looks like, calm water surfaces or sharp carved ice. Very distinct.
And their philosophy is just perfect. The quiet stroke is the truest strike. That sums up putting, doesn't it? It's not about raw power. It's all about that internal rhythm, that tempo, that precision.
It really does. And it connects directly to their phase of the swing. Impact. That tiny fraction of a second where the club actually meets the ball, all the power, all the rhythm built up before, it either pays off right there or it's wasted.
So the Tiding Knight is constantly striving for that perfect, clean contact every single time.
That's the goal. Their visuals reflect it too. Deep ocean blue, teal surge, often with accents of light foam white or light aqua, calm, controlled colors.
But okay, philosophy is one thing. How does quiet precision actually translate to, battlefield power? If a Flamewing is just trying to blast me with massive HD, how does a Tidewing even compete in that exchange?
They don't compete on raw power, they win through control, through positioning. They are the quintessential mid-range control faction in T-Legion. Their job is redirecting attacks, manipulating the yardage tempo on the board, and crucially, mastering the hazard zone.
Okay, redirecting, manipulating tempo. Sounds subtle.
It is subtle. They specialize in these little tricks, accuracy boosts, rerolls for dice, minimizing the random variance that can wreck a plan. They're not about overwhelming force, they're about making sure their plan works consistently.
So pure tempo players. Flamewings want to rush you, crush you with distance. Tidewings want to slow things right down, manage the board state, and ensure the finish, the putt, is clean.
Exactly. Which means they have to excel at YDS manipulation to control that board state. And that immediately points us to their natural habitat on the land zone.
The putter slot.
The putter slot. Their whole game revolves around YDS discipline within that tight range.
Okay, let's visualize the battlefield, the lance zone. That's the front line where the dragons are actually doing the hitting right. 8 slots total.
8 slots, yeah. Starting at Peeper Putter, running all the way up through the wedges, irons, woods, to D1W for the driver.
And you said earlier, this zone is ruled by YDS-driven legality.
Absolutely. A dragon's printed YDS number physically locks it into which slot it can occupy. It forces this authentic golf logic onto the battlefield. You can't just put a driver dragon in the putter slot. And for clarity's sake, all printed yardages in the game end in 0. Just keeps the math clean.
Right, so you see that ascending yardage alignment. Driver slot D1W, that's way out there, 280 plus YDS, holds the really big hitters, the heavy artillery.
Yeah, the powerhouses live there. But the Tidewings domain, it's the complete opposite end of the spectrum. The putter P slot, the absolute tightest band on the course.
And what's the exact range for that P slot?
Just 0 to 50 YDS, that's it. The shortest distance zone, representing that critical greenside play, where the tension between hitting it close enough and hitting it too hard is, at its absolute peak.
So tactically, what's a dragon doing, sitting there at, say, 30 YDS or 40 YDS? What's its job?
Its job is often defensive filler, being that last line of defense before something gets to your knight. It's the last hit specialist, the one that secures the final points. Think of it as the tap-in finisher. Tidewings thrive here because they ensure control at these incredibly short, incredibly crucial distances.
They don't need the raw power because they're assuming the game state will eventually funnel towards them, towards the green, where their kind of control is king.
That's the strategic bet they make. Now, you mentioned something really important earlier when we talked about relics and limitations. Par 4, Par 5 dragons. We need to clarify what par means for a dragon unit itself.
Right, because it impacts how things like caddy relics work later.
Exactly. Par in T-Legion is effectively the dragon's power level, its rarity, and its deployment cost. Think of it like mana cost in other TCGs, but framed in golf terms as difficulty or significance. Par 3 dragons are your common units, the workhorses, reliable, usually lower stats.
Okay, par 3s are standard. What about par 4s?
Par 4 dragons are the strong mid-tier units, bruisers. They often occupy those mid to long iron slots, maybe the fairway wood slots. They're a significant threat, much tougher than par 3s.
And the big ones, par 5s.
Par 5 dragons are your legends, your boss monsters. High-impact, game-changing units. These are typically the ones you find in the driver slot at 280 plus YDS, though some powerful ones might exist at shorter yardages too. They define deck archetypes.
Okay, so par 3 common, par 4 strong, par 5 legendary boss. And the key distinction for later is?
The key is that certain types of relics, especially the safer, more reliable hazard retrieval relics like caddies, are specifically capped. They can only retrieve par 4 dragons or lower.
Okay, so if your big par 5 boss dragon gets knocked into a hazard, your standard safety net might not work. You need something riskier, more specialized.
Precisely. This creates a really interesting deck-building tension.
That makes sense. And it ties back to the Tidewings, their home. The putter slot is going to be mostly filled with par 3s and maybe some par 4s, right?
Predominantly, yes, which means they are inherently more stable, more consistently retrievable using those safer caddy relics. But, and this is a huge but, all that stability hinges entirely on maintaining that super tight 0 to 50 YDS band.
Which brings us to that rule you mentioned, the brutal YDS discipline rule. Let's hear the specifics.
Okay, this rule is, well, it's the bane of the Tidewing Knight's existence sometimes. If a dragon's YDS stat changes during the game, maybe an opponent hits it with a relic effect, maybe something else happens, and its YDS value falls outside the legal band for its current slot.
So for a putter dragon, if it goes from 40 YDS up to, say, 60 YDS.
Exactly. If it goes outside that 0.50 YDS range for the putter slot, the dragon physically stays in the P slot. It doesn't move, but it cannot strike.
Cannot strike at all. Just sits there.
Just sits there, useless for attacking until its YDS somehow get modified back into that legal 0.50 band. It's effectively paralyzed offensively.
Wow. Okay, so what stops a flaming player, someone focused on long range, from just packing a couple of cheap technique relics that bump YDS? They hit my key Tiding putter dragon, push it from 45 YDS to 55 YDS.
And you've just bricked it.
For how long?
Until you, the Tidewing Knight, spend your precious command activation for the turn, and probably use one of your relics to play a negative YDS effect just to nudge it back down below 51 YDS.
Oh, that's brutal. You're spending your turn fixing a problem instead of advancing your game. Just an 11-yard push is enough. 40 to 51.
What's 11 yards? Yeah. That's the razor's edge they live on. It's the core strategic trade-off. Tidewings have great defense, often high DG, but they are incredibly vulnerable to targeted YDS manipulation.
So the entire Tiding game plan has to be this constant, almost obsessive focus on maintaining YDS stability. Their relic choices, their command decisions, it all have to factor in protecting that 0.50 range.
It defines their playstyle before a single dragon even strikes. It's perpetual YDS chess.
Okay, that vulnerability makes their control mechanics even more interesting. Let's talk about how they actually exert that control during a turn, especially with the dice rolls.
Right, so the basic turn rhythm. The knight gives a command to one dragon strike, defend, or activate a special ability. If they choose strike, then you move into the strike and resolve phase, and that involves a core mechanic, a 1d6 roll.
A single 6-sided die roll determines the outcome. But you mentioned there are actually 2 types of distance rolls. This seems important for Tidewing finesse.
Critically important, yes. There's the standard yardage roll. This happens pretty much every strike, determines the baseline distance the ball travels, affects scoring position. It's fundamental.
Okay, baseline distance. What's the other one?
The other one is the shot shape roll. Now this roll is different. It models the physics of the swing, the curves, the mishits, maybe wind effects. Did you draw it? Fade it? Hook it? Slice it? Shank it?
The stuff that makes golf. Well, golf, the unpredictable parts.
Exactly, and the crucial distinction is the shot shape roll is relic driven. It doesn't happen automatically on every strike. It only occurs when a knight activates a relic card that specifically instructs them to make a shot shape roll.
Okay, so it's an overlay. You get your baseline yardage roll, and then if a relic triggers it, you roll again for shot shape, which modifies the outcome.
Precisely. It separates the raw distance potential from the, let's call it, swing style or quality of contact.
And this is where Tidewings shine, because they rely on relics anyway.
This is their wheelhouse,
Yeah.
Their whole tactical advantage. Bending dice rolls, manipulating outcomes, ensuring precision. It's almost entirely conditional on their knight activating relics that trigger that shot shape roll engine. They are designed to take that volatile 1d6 shot shape result and wrestle it into a controlled, predictable outcome.
Okay, let's break down those 6 possible outcomes from the shot shape roll. You said it's a descending quality curve. 1 is best, 6 is worst.
That's right. Rolls 1, 2, and 3 are generally your good controlled shots. Roll 1 is straight, clean strike. You get your baseline YDS and HD from the yardage roll, no extra drama, perfect.
Predictable is good for control. What's roll 2?
Roll 2 is the draw. Controlled curve, typically left for a right-handed golfer, that adds power. You get stat bonuses, maybe something like plus 100 HD and plus 50 YDS. Great for pushing through defenses or gaining a bit more ground safely.
Okay, draw is controlled power. Roll 3.
Roll 3 is the fade, the opposite controlled curve, typically right. This offers control. You gain defensive stability, perhaps plus 100 DG and plus 50 YDS. Good for solidifying your position. All 3, straight, draw, fade, are safe, desirable outcomes. You maintain your position, gain momentum.
Right, 1, 2, 3 are the safe zone. Now we get into the risky territory. Roll 4.
Roll 4 is the hook. This is an overswing, an uncontrolled curve, usually sharply left. You get a big distance spike, maybe plus 150 YDS, which looks appealing.
But there's a catch.
Big catch. You sacrifice safety. You might take a significant defensive penalty like -100 DG, making you vulnerable. And crucially, rolling a hook triggers a risk of bunker hazard check. You might end up in the sand trap.
So, distance at the cost of safety and position. Okay, roll 5.
Roll 5 is the slice. The other uncontrolled curve, usually sharply right, often indicating weaker contact. This is generally bad all around. You lose distance, maybe -100 YDS, and you lose hitting power, maybe -100 HD. Plus, you risk the rough hazard check. You could end up in the tall grass.
Ouch. Loss of yards, loss of power, and a hazard risk. Not good. Which leaves roll 6.
Roll 6, the absolute bottom. The shank. This is just catastrophic mishit. Off the hull, sideways. It's terrible.
What happens on a shank?
You lose a lot of distance, maybe -150 YDS or more, and critically, rolling a shank immediately triggers a mandatory hazard check. No risk of, it will happen. And it specifically risks the worst outcomes. The water hazard check, or even an out-of-bound OB hazard check.
Mandatory check for water or OB. Yikes. That sounds game-losing, potentially.
It can be absolutely devastating, which perfectly illustrates that central tension for Tidewings, right? They're linked to the impact phase, the moment of truth. Their entire strategy is built around manipulating these high-variance outcomes, the hook, the slice, and especially the dreaded shank.
Okay, how, though? Give me a specific example. How does a Tidewing relic take that awful roll 5 slice where I'm losing HD and YDS and risking the rough and turn it into something less bad?
Okay, imagine a signature Tidewing relic, maybe a caddy relic called Tide Shift. Its text might say something like, if the result of a shot-shaped roll made by the commanded dragon is a slice 5 or a hook 4, you may choose to mitigate all stat penalties and treat the result as a fade 3 instead.
Ah, okay. So instead of losing 100 HD and 100 YDS from that slice, I activate Tide Shift. The penalties vanish, and instead I get the benefits of a fade, the +100 DG, and +50 YDS.
Precisely. You've converted it. You didn't get the aggressive power of a draw 2, but you turned a potential disaster that risked the rough hazard into a net positive defensively. You gained DG, you gained a bit of YDS, and most importantly, you maintained control and stability.
That is impact mastery. It's not about hitting harder, it's about ensuring the imperfect hit doesn't spiral out of control.
Yeah.
Fixing the minor flaw before it becomes a major one.
Exactly. So where the Flaming Knight looks at that 1d6 shot shape roll, hoping for raw power, maybe risking the hook for the YDS, the Tiding Knight looks at that same 1d6 roll, hoping for an opportunity to demonstrate control, to use a relic like Tide Shift to guarantee stability.
The whole goal of the turn, the whole philosophy, changes based on the faction. It's fascinating.
And that focus on mitigating the bad rolls, the shank, slice, hook, leads us directly into the next crucial area for Tidewings.
Hazard mastery.
Hazard mastery, dealing with the consequences when mitigation doesn't work or isn't available.
Right, the hazard zone. You called it the game's risk engine, where the messy physics of golf really bite you.
That's where mistakes land, yeah. Typically triggered by those bad shot shape rolls 4, 5, or 6.
And there were 4 subzones, 4 levels of penalty.
4 levels, scaling up in severity. You've got the bunker, sand, generally the mildest, usually just imposes temporary penalties like a EGG or EHD tax for a turn or 2. Annoying, but manageable.
Okay, sand is annoying. What's next?
Then you have the rough. Think tall glass, tricky lies. This is usually more disruptive. It often forces a direct GP loss on your knight, maybe alongside a stat cut on the dragon. Hits your score and your unit.
Getting worse. Okay, number 3.
Number 3 is the big one, especially relevant to our Tidewings, the water hazard.
Ah, the irony. The water ice dragons and the water hazard is one of the worst places to be.
It's deeply ironic, yeah. Landing in the water, usually triggered by that shank, roll 6, is severe. We're talking heavy dual stat cuts, often substantial GP penalties directly against your knight's score, and really critically, potential tempo skips.
Tempo skips, meaning you lose your next action.
Or the dragon might miss its next command phase. Basically, you lose your unit and your opponent effectively gains a turn advantage. It's a huge swing.
Okay, water's bad. Is there anything worse before just losing the dragon forever?
Yes. The 4th and final state, OB, out of bounds. If a hazard check results in OB, that dragon is gone, irretrievable, exiled from the match completely.
Oof. Okay, OB is absolute loss. But for bunker, rough, and water, retrieval is possible.
Retrieval is possible, yes, it's the lifeline. But it always comes at a cost. The core rule is, any dragon retrieved from a hazard zone re-enters play exhausted. Meaning it cannot strike on the turn it returns. You get your board presence back, but you sacrifice immediate offensive tempo. You're always trading something to get it back. Plus, there are usually relic costs and potentially other penalties based on a universal hazard retrieval cost table. Retrieval is never free.
So prevention using those Tidewing control tricks is exponentially better than needing a recovery.
Absolutely. Which is why the tiding strategy relies so heavily on specific types of relics for stabilization, and when needed, safe retrieval. Primarily caddy relics and swing relics.
Okay, let's break those down. Caddies first. You said they're about guidance, safety.
Think of your golf caddy giving advice, calming you down. Caddy relics in T-Legion anchor around 2 core stats: DG and GP Dragon Guard for toughness, and game points for the knight's morale, score, and tempo. They are the ultimate variance stabilizers.
Stabilizers. And how does that apply to getting dragons out of hazards?
Caddy hazard retrieval abilities are designed to be the safest, most consistent options. They minimize additional risks, but remember that par limitation. Caddy retrieval effects are generally capped at recovering par 4 dragons or lower.
Right. So they're perfect for the Tidewings core par 3 and par 4 putter dragons. They embody that philosophy of avoiding catastrophic collapse, prioritizing a steady, reliable recovery over some flashy, risky play.
Exactly. If your essential par 3 putter dragon shanks into the water, a caddy relic is your safest, most reliable bet to pull it out cleanly, even though it'll come back exhausted. It fits their goal of consistency.
Okay, caddies are safe, steady, DGGP focused, but capped at par 4. What about swing relics? Tied to form, rhythm.
Swing relics represent the discipline needed to maintain good garfing form, even under pressure. They tend to anchor around DG as well, but often pair it with YDS or sometimes GP. Stability plus distance control or tempo.
DG plus YDS. How does that help with hazard retrieval specifically?
Swing hazard retrieval relics act like rhythm-based safety nets. They focus on ensuring the dragon comes back correctly. They might reduce the chance of further negative outcomes during retrieval, or, crucially for Tidewings, they help ensure that when the dragon returns, its YDS value is stable and doesn't accidentally fall outside its legal slot band.
Ah, so it's YDS discipline applied even to the recovery phase, making sure the rescue doesn't cause another problem by breaking the YDS rule.
Precisely. It's about controlled recovery, reflecting that tiding discipline of form.
So you compare this careful, controlled Tidewing approach to hazards with other factions. It's night and day, right? Like Slice Fang you mentioned.
Completely different. Slice Fang. They embrace the chaos. They have relics that might make water hazard retrieval cheaper in terms of GP cost, but maybe increase the risk of OB or give huge temporary HD boosts upon retrieval. They treat hazards like a high-risk, high-reward casino. They're reckless gamblers by comparison.
And the Stonebacks, the Earth Dragons.
Stonebacks are bunker specialists. They have synergies where landing in the bunker might actually give them GP or DG bonuses. They turn the sand trap into an operational advantage. They want to grind you down through attrition, and the bunker helps them do that.
But Tidewings,
Yeah.
they're not trying to gamble like Slice Fang or profit from the bunker like Stonebacks. They're trying to control and mitigate the damage across the entire spectrum of hazards.
Yes. Using rhythm, swing relics, and guidance, caddy relics, to prevent that shank into the water from becoming a complete game-losing disaster. They want to stop the snowball effect. It really is a constant battle against their own element, using the calm, controlled aspect of water and ice to negate the destructive, chaotic flow of the water hazard itself.
That philosophical battle,
Yeah,
mastering ice to prevent drowning. That's the core of playing Tidewing.
it truly is.
Okay, we've established relics are the knight's toolkit, modifying stats, managing hazards, controlling tempo. And for a Tidewing knight, building a winning deck means carefully balancing the safety of caddies and swing relics with the necessity of other tools to cover all bases.
Absolutely. You can't just rely on DG and GP support. You need the full arsenal. So we should probably look at the stat priorities, the sort of design anchors for all 5 relic subclasses to see how a Tidewing player pulls together a complete strategy.
Right, we covered caddy, DG plus GP, and swing, DG plus YDS GP. Let's hit the others, starting with gear relics. These are the actual clubs, right? Putters, irons, drivers manifested as cards.
Exactly. Gear relics are straightforward. They focus almost exclusively on the core output stats, YDS, HD, and DG, modifying the dragon's intrinsic capabilities.
So, raw power and distance. How does a Tidewing knight, who isn't about raw power, use gear effectively?
Precision. They use gear not necessarily for a massive HD boost, but for surgical YDS control. Maybe a gear relic gives a tiny plus 10 YDS boost, just enough to move a dragon from 35 YDS to 45 YDS to enable some other relic interaction. Or maybe a gear relic offers a small YDS cut to pull a dragon back into the legal 050 putter slot if it got pushed out.
Ah, using gear for fine-tuning, not just brute force. Makes sense. Okay, next subclass, course relics. These affect the environment.
Course relics interact with the battlefield itself, the living course. Their primary anchors are typically GP and YDS. They focus on tempo manipulation and strategic positioning across the entire board.
Tempo and positioning.
Yeah.
Sounds very Tidewing-esque already.
Very much so. A Tidewing player, obsessed with controlling tempo and distance, uses course relics to maybe slow down the opponent's overall momentum, or perhaps strategically alter the yardage bands or conditions on the course in a way that benefits their short-range putter strategy while hindering long-range opponents. Environmental control.
Okay, so we have gear for surgical YDSH DDG adjustments, course for board-wide tempo and YDS shifts, caddy for DGGP stability and safe, low par retrieval, swing for DGYDS rhythm and discipline retrieval. That seems like a solid control package.
Yeah.
But we keep hitting that wall.
The par 4 limit.
Yeah. Caddy and swing relics are reliable, but they can't save your big guns, your par 5 Tidewing Boss Dragon, if it takes a dive into the water hazard. So what's the answer?
And the answer lies in the fifth and final subclass, the one Tidewing Knights must, perhaps reluctantly, embrace. Technique relics.
Techniques. These sound aggressive.
They are. Technique relics are the one-shot tactical plays, the clutch moments, the miracle saves. Their stat anchors reflect this. They focus heavily on HD and YDS, often delivering powerful, immediate bursts of damage or precise movement.
High impact, but likely high cost.
Usually, yes. They often come with a significant GP cost paid by the knight, or carry some other inherent penalty or risk. They represent that moment of going all in on a specific maneuver.
And critically, for the Tidewing dilemma.
Critically, technique relics are the only subclass capable of retrieving those massive, game-defining par 5 dragons from a hazard like water.
Ah, there it is. That's the escape hatch for the big guys.
It's the escape hatch, but it's a risky one. Technique-based retrieval is inherently less stable. It often involves more complex checks or carries the highest risk of failing catastrophically and resulting in that dreaded OB out-of-bounds state where the dragon is lost forever.
Wow. So that creates this just beautiful, almost agonizing strategic tension for the Tidewing player. Their entire philosophy is built around calm, steady control, avoiding catastrophe, minimizing variance with caddies and swings.
And yet, to protect their most powerful investments, their par 5 centerpieces, they must include and be prepared to use the single, riskiest, most volatile retrieval option in the game.
It's like a calculated gamble forced upon the least likely gambler. They spend 90% of the game playing it safe, mitigating every little bit of variance, and then suddenly, bam! They have to roll the hard 6 on a high-stakes technique relic just to save their star player.
It's precisely that. It's a moment of necessary chaos within an overall strategy of absolute rigid control. It's not the constant reckless gambling of a slice-fang player. It's a single, critical, calculated risk taken only when everything is on the line.
And you know, the emotional weight of activating that technique relic must feel so much heavier for the Tidewing player than for the slice-fang player who's just throwing dice all game.
Absolutely. It underscores that even the most disciplined control strategy in T-Legion must ultimately respect the power of chance, the possibility of catastrophic failure.
That depth, where even your control faction has to stare into the abyss occasionally. That's what makes this game sound so compelling. The complete Tidewing strategy isn't just caddies and swings, it's a carefully constructed blend.
It has to be. DGGP stability from caddy swing provides the foundation and tempo control. HDYDS spikes from technique offer the emergency levers and high par saves. And precise YDS output modulation from gear and course allows for the tactical positioning and environmental shaping needed to execute the plan. It all has to work together.
A complex, demanding, but potentially very rewarding playstyle. Hashtag outro. All right, let's try and wrap this up. Let's synthesize the core strategic identity of the Tidewings. What did we learn today? They are the faction defined by discipline, right? Embodied by that impact phase of the golf scene.
Discipline and precision, yeah. Their whole focus is short game control. They want to dominate that putter slot, the 050 YDS range. That's their kingdom.
And they execute that control primarily through defensive support and variance mitigation, leaning really heavily on those DG and GP-focused swing and caddy relics.
To manipulate the outcomes of the shot-shaped roll, to turn potential failures into stable results, and to ensure reliable recovery for their core units.
They are pretty much the purest expression of a control archetype in T-Legion. They don't win by smashing face with HD. They win by strangling the opponent's momentum, by managing the board state meticulously and by forcing the final confrontation onto the green, where their precision is supposed to reign supreme.
And that connection to the water element is it's the constant strategic battleground. They have to turn the chaotic, destructive potential of water, embodied by the water hazard, into a source of calm, measured, consistent victory, embodied by their icy precision.
Okay, so here's the final structural challenge, the dilemma for anyone wanting to pilot Tidewings. And this is a great place to leave you, the listener, with something to chew on. We know Tidewings master the short game, the 050 YDS impact zone. They are the control faction. But this means they are inherently strategically weaker in those long-distance duels, out where the flame wings are launching 300-yard bombs.
Right. The driver slot, the long iron slots, that's not their natural territory.
So the provocative question is this. If you're playing Tidewings, how do you manage your own mid-iron and driver slots? Your 7-iron, your 5-iron, your driver D, slots further up the land zone. How do you ensure that your core strength down there at 050 YDS isn't just completely bypassed and overwhelmed by the raw, aggressive, distance-forcing power of factions like the Flame Wings before you can establish your control?
How do you bridge that gap? How do you survive the opponent's long game long enough for your superior short game to actually matter? That structural challenge, protecting the precision of the eventual tap-in from the overwhelming brute force of the initial tee shot, that's the ultimate test, I think, of a truly skilled Tidewing knight.
Something to definitely think about. That's all the time we have for this deep dive.
We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.